Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Fruitful Linden, where I teach people how to design, save, and live. Today I want to go over what I've mentioned in a couple of my past videos, which is how I pay my bills basically half a month and ahead, so that I can put aside the half of the payment each paycheck and then have the full amount by the time it's due, which leads me to be about half a month ahead on all of my bills, just so that I can make sure I have the full amount by the time the bills are due. That's just the way that it works out with the calendar. So I have mentioned that in my past few videos, and I'm going to go explain why I do that and what the difference is between being half a month ahead versus paying the bills per paycheck. So if you look at my calendar here, you can see that I have highlighted in pink that I get paid on the 12th, and then for this paycheck I would pay Planet Fitness and Discover. But then this payday I don't have any bills until the 1st of the next month. Well, in July I don't get paid until down here at the 10th. So how is this going to get paid if it's not from this paycheck? So let's go ahead and get right into that, and I'll explain why I do it this way. So I went ahead and wrote down these categories in advance, and I'll go ahead and zoom it in so you can see extra well what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use June's example. So real paycheck numbers, real bill numbers, real expenses, and then we'll see how this ends up. Okay, so for rent, that is not paid because I had already paid rent by the time I got my first paycheck in June, because my first paycheck was when? It was the 12th, and I paid rent. Rent is due on the 1st. So already we're seeing where that is not going to work. Okay, so that's technically paid with the previous paycheck, but for the sake of this video, rent for the next month would have to be paid from the second paycheck. So I'll go ahead and write down $628 for rent. Okay, same thing with the mortgage. Okay, my car, I got paid on the 12th, and my car was due on the 11th. So again, that's on the second paycheck. Okay, and then Pandora was the 10th, and I got paid on the 12th, so again, on the second paycheck. I think you can see where I'm going with this, is that it's really, really difficult. Okay, so, and then on, so I forgot to write it down here, but I'll go ahead and write it down now. I forgot to write down Planet Fitness. I'll just put PF and PF. Okay. So Planet Fitness was paid from this paycheck, so that was the first paycheck. So that would have been $22 on a normal month, and then my loans was $355 from that paycheck. So assuming that all of these first expenses were paid last month, which they would have to be anyways, just consider these amounts in this column here, right here, to be paid with this second paycheck. Okay, and then each paycheck for gasoline, I put in $60 per paycheck. Groceries, I put in $80 per paycheck. They're like clockwork. Dog food is $20. And then fun and date night right now has been $40 a paycheck. Okay, so I think you see where we get into an issue here. This is not to say that it can't be done the other way, but it's just really, to me, it's more of a temptation problem than anything. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and set that there where you can see it. Hopefully you can get everything in frame here for you. Okay, so for paycheck number 1, we got paid $14.22. So $14.22 minus $355 minus 22. That leaves us with 1,045 left over. Go ahead and circle that. Okay, so then minus 60, minus 80, minus 20, minus 40. That leaves us with $845 that really we don't know what we can do with. This has to sit in the bank account until the next paycheck, right? Because we don't exactly know. I mean, we could do the math and figure it out, but we don't exactly know what's going into sinking funds and what actually has to pay a portion of these bills, right? So let's see what we've got left over on paycheck number 2, and I can guarantee you that it is dismal. So I'm a person that likes to stuff my sinking funds every paycheck because it helps me feel motivated, especially when you kind of trick yourself into sinking more into your sinking funds because you're doing it each paycheck instead of once a month. Okay, and again, this is for people who get paid bi-weekly. So the bills, we got paid $1,370, so we're going to subtract $628, 1,000. See, we're already in the negative. $205. Okay, so here we're at negative 463. Yeah, it's not looking great. So then on top of that, you're going to subtract all of your expenses because these are things that I personally can't go without. Minus 20, minus 40. So I am negative $663. And yes, this $845 should carry over, but here's my problem with that. Okay, are you ready for this? I've already said it once this video.
Temptation.
So you see the first paycheck that you have this $845 sitting in your account, right? So you think to yourself, oh, I can afford that mani-pedi because I have the $845 left over, not thinking about these bills that are going to cause you to be negative. So you aren't realizing that you still have to pay a portion of the bills from this, and you think, oh, well, in that case, I got $845 that I can spend. But you're wrong. And you think this is crazy, but this happens to a lot of people. You come over here and you're in the negative and you don't know what to do, and it creates a really, really bad cycle. Now, if you're really disciplined and you don't touch this $845, then okay, congratulations, good for you. But I know personally,
Temptation.
I think in my head, like, well, you know, I should have about $300 left over. Even if I know that I still have to pay these bills, I'm like, well, I have like $300 left over, I can go spend that. But you really don't have $300 left over. You have $182 left over. So down here, we're gonna say we have left over is $182. And at this point, you haven't put anything in your sinking funds yet. So even if you think you know you have this $182, you're not being honest with yourself and thinking about your sinking funds as well. And so I'll go over why I split my payments up in half and how a little bit of a story time about how I got to a point where I could pay those half a month in advance. And I'll tell you, you're not going to like the answer, but I started this when I first started my career, and I lived with my dad until I could afford to do this. And basically I had to wait until I got about 2 paychecks in before I could start doing this. And I actually didn't move out of my dad's house for about 3 months after graduation. So I graduated in May, moved out in August into the apartment. And it took me about 3 months to get to the point where I could still have money left over, afford all of my bills and things like that. Okay, so my method, I'll go ahead and rewrite this. My method is to do half at a time. So like for June in particular, we all know by now that I have rent and mortgage at the same time. So for rent, I mentioned that for my paycheck, I direct deposit $335 each paycheck into a entirely separate bank account. Okay, and then each paycheck for my mortgage, I transfer or direct deposit $500 into my bills account per paycheck. And I do that the month before it's due, so that by the time the first rolls around, I have that $1,000 in that account. Same thing with my car, so I do $100 each time. Okay, and then with Pandora, since it's due on the 10th, and I normally don't get paid before then, that would normally be paid from the second paycheck. So I do just do that $5 there because it's such a small amount. And then Planet Fitness would be paid from the first paycheck of the month, which would be $22. And then my loans, since in June I only have my Discover loans, and that would be $355. I'm doing $178 per paycheck, which you have seen before. Okay, but then for these I still do the same amounts, so I'll go ahead and quickly write those down. Okay, so let's go ahead and add these up. So I have $287 left over here. And then after my expenses, that's $200. I would have $87 left over on a normal month. Okay, and we'll go ahead and do the other column. Okay, so in this instance, yes, this money looks pretty dismal, and it's not quite proportionate because one paycheck I have to pay the Planet Fitness and the other paycheck I have to pay Pandora, but this paycheck's smaller and this paycheck is larger. But this is the money that I know I have left over, and when I do my monthly budget, this is how I do it. So I do it in half, and then I know exactly how much money I have left over. Yes, I only had $57 left. Okay, and then I know that I carry that $57 over here. I can fill up my sinking funds and things like that. Instead of having that large amount of $845 left over, possibly stuffing too much or not having enough money for my bills the next time. So this is why I do half a month ahead. I do recommend it if you can get ahead of that schedule by half a month. If you have some way to get your affairs in order before you even start working, start planning to do this, and before you make any drastic decisions like moving out of your parents' house or anything like that, consider getting half a month ahead so that you can take part in this system if you want. If you're really, really disciplined and you won't be tempted, then I see no issue with this method. However, I just like to have everything planned. I like to have everything on paper. I want to know what to expect. That's why I fill these out in advance. So thank you for watching my video about how to be half a month ahead. Go ahead and comment down below if this made sense to you or if it was confusing, because I know that when I've tried to explain this to people before, it can be kind of confusing, and the way that I explain things, I really need to be more careful about how I explain things, because sometimes I might be using a lot of jargon, financial jargon that people may not understand. So if there's something you didn't understand, please comment down below, or if you have any questions, I'll do my best to get to those and answer those. So feel free to like this video, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you get a notification every single time I upload a video. Have a great 4th of July weekend, and we will see you in our next video.